Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 European empires. Just before we get started, I will say that this video is made in collaboration with Dr. Matthew Zarzekny of historyandheadlines.com. If you want more lists like this, do head over to historyandheadlines.com. So, no leader has ever conquered the entire world. Some have conquered whole countries, while others have taken over the greater half of continents. Europe has been one of the most densely populated continents for centuries. The first humans arrived in Europe approximately 1.75 million years ago. Prehistoric Europe consisted of the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations that collapsed around 1200 BC. The majority of early European history comes from what is now modern-day Greece and its neighboring countries. Most parts of Europe have belonged to one of the major powers that we're mentioning in this video. We're ranking these empires based on military presence, imperialism, and population, as judged by the author. Number 10. The Celtic Empire. The Celts were an ethno-linguistic group of tribal societies in the Iron Age and medieval Europe that spoke Celtic languages while having similar culture throughout Western Europe. Though predominant in the British Isles, the United Kingdom and Ireland, their reach also extended over what is now modern-day Portugal, Spain, France, Holland, Belgium, Germany, and Italy. The Celts first appeared in Central Europe around 1200 BC. From there, they moved westward. Their expansion was aided by their weaponry and brutal battle techniques. Classical writers described them as wild beasts. In Book 14 of Roman Antiquities, Dionysius described their fighting as being in large measure that of wild beasts and frenzied, with an erratic procedure quite lacking in military science. Thus, at one moment they would raise their swords aloft and smite after the manner of wild boars, throwing the whole weight of their bodies into the blow like hewers of wood or men digging with mattocks, and again they would deliver crosswire blows aimed at no target, as if they intended to cut to pieces the entire bodies of their adversaries, protective armor and all. The Celts also had a strong art culture and later, despite their hedonistic appearance, adapted Christianity to replace their paganism. Number 9. The Viking Empire. The Vikings were Norse seafarers from the late 8th to the middle 11th centuries, and they would travel away from their homeland to trade, explore, and sometimes raid areas of Europe, Asia, and the North Atlantic islands. Although the Vikings did not conquer mainland Europe like the Celts did, they did travel to the Middle East and Russia and even traded with China. There is strong evidence that they reached North America and had settlements in the modern Canadian provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador. Along with their ability to expand, the Vikings were also known for their brutish warfare and violence as motivated by their Norse religion. One war tactic even consisted of deploying troops who had ingested hallucinogenic mushrooms or massive amounts of alcohol. Number 8. The Spanish Empire. The Spanish Empire began during the Age of Exploration in 1496, and it would reach its peak as the foremost global power under the House of Habsburg. In the 16th century, Spain was exploring and colonizing half of North and South America, parts of Africa, and even some islands in the Pacific Ocean. The Spaniards were an uncontested naval power until King Philip II sent his Spanish Armada to invade England in 1588. Its crushing defeat by the English paved the way for English expansion and colonialism. Number 7. The Portuguese Empire. Although it started as a small and relatively insignificant European country, Portugal would go on to have one of the largest and richest empires, its colonies including Brazil, coastal regions of Africa, and trading posts in Asia. Known more as traders than warfarers, the trade route from Portugal to India, founded by Vasco da Gama in 1498, introduced spices and other exotic new foods to Europe. In 1580, Philip II of Spain inherited the Portuguese crown, thereby beginning a 60-year union between the two countries. Number 6. The French Colonial Empire. For nearly 1,000 years, France had a long-standing rivalry with England. Naturally, this rivalry extended to their colonies as well, especially during the American Revolution. Though the French did establish colonies in the Caribbean, India, and North America after the sale of Louisiana, though named Louisiana, the territory was actually comprised of 15 modern-day U.S. states to the U.S. in 1803 and the conquest of Algiers in 1830, they concentrated primarily on their colonies in northwestern Africa, Madagascar, French Guiana, and select areas in Southeast Asia. By World War II, the French colonial empire, including France, had a population of 110 million people. Number 5. The Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire was the continuation of the eastern half of the Roman Empire and lasted between 330 and 1453, with a gap from 1204 to 1261. Its capital was Constantinople, or modern-day Istanbul. For most of its existence, this empire was the most powerful economic, cultural, and military force in Europe. It eventually fell to the Ottoman Turks. Number 4. The Russian Empire. The The Russian Empire, which existed from 1721 until it was overthrown by the Bolsheviks in 1917, stretched over 3 continents and was only surpassed in size by the British and Mongol empires. At its peak, it was comprised of present-day Russia, Mongolia, Alaska, and other territories around the Eurasian Peninsula. The expansion of the Russian Empire also allowed for the spread of Eastern Orthodox Christianity. In this video, we're ranking it over the French Empire because it was the Russians who thwarted Napoleon's plans to take over and control the entirety of Europe. Number 3. The Third Reich. This empire, although controversial and hated, was responsible for World War II and is still fresh in our minds. Known as Nazi Germany or the Third Reich and ruled by Adolf Hitler, it only lasted from 1933 to 1945. It was a fascist, totalitarian state that controlled almost all aspects of life. Particularly keen on promoting racism and especially anti-Semitism, Hitler and the Nazis believed Aryans to be the master race. Jews and others deemed not up to Hitler's expectations and standards were persecuted and/or murdered. Nazi Germany occupied most of Central Europe, with much of the rest being under the control of their allied puppet states. The Nazis eventually lost the war, and their empire was lost along with it. Number 2. The Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire lasted from the Middle Ages until its dissolution in 1806. It was multi-ethnic and was comprised of the territories of Germany, Italy, Bohemia, and Burgundy. The emperor was traditionally elected and then crowned by the Pope. Throughout its history, Catholicism was the main religion in its territories, but with the Reformation, new Protestant churches such as Lutheranism and Calvinism were introduced. After its defeat by Napoleon at the Battle of Austerlitz, it was dissolved. Number 1. The British Empire. The British Empire was the empire on which the sun never sets. It had colonies in North America, the Caribbean, Africa, the Middle East, Southern Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and even Antarctica. At its height, it covered more than 33,700,000 square kilometers. That's 13,012,000 square miles, which is almost a quarter of the Earth's total land area. The British had rivalries with the French, the Irish, and the Dutch. After World War II, Britain began a policy of decolonialization, and the end of the empire as such came in 1997 when Hong Kong was returned to China. So I really hope you found that video interesting. Do you think there's an empire we missed, or do you think we got the placement wrong? Do let us know your opinion in the comments below, we'd love to hear it. Also, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to subscribe to this channel for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. And if you're looking for something else to watch, a couple of other videos, link to just click on the screen right there if you want to go check those out. And thank you for watching.